Hi, and welcome to this episode of Bill and Kipp's Excellent Bible Adventure. We're looking at the book of John. My name is Kipp McClurg, and
I'm Bill Brunson.
And we're both pastors at Vestavia Hills United Methodist Church. Today we're looking at Jesus' calling of his disciples. And in chapters 1, 2, and 3 of John, we find John the Baptist, the other John, sort of woven throughout the stories.
Right.
And he says, I have come not necessarily to be the person, the one that's coming of God, but I'm announcing that. Mm-hmm. And so he then begins to focus on Jesus. Now, every week we have a different kind of object sitting around, and today we have a pair of glasses.
Yes.
And they're your glasses.
They are my computer glasses. So once again, our budget went so high as to just borrow the glasses that I keep on my desk.
Yes, so far we've kept our special object budget to zero.
We are still at zero.
We are still at zero. But anyway, but I was supposed to have brought my glasses, but I can't find them. So there was my spares, and I often spend a lot of time looking for my glasses. Drives my family crazy. If I had one of those things that you could whistle or push a button, and it didn't look funny sitting on, I would attach it, but haven't figured out how to do that. But in this calling of the disciples, Jesus looks at the disciples at one point, and he says a phrase that can be interpreted several different ways, but my favorite is, what are you searching for?
Right.
And it's an important question. Now, the calling begins with some big words, where one of the disciples says that he has found the Christ. I believe it was Andrew that said that. Right. And the word Christ, we've studied it before, is the same word in Hebrew as Messiah, which means anointed, and it goes all the way back to when the kings were anointed, and that sense of leadership and sort of the authority and mantle of leadership passed all the way down, and they were looking for the person who was going to come and sort of take over that role. And so when Andrew says something like that, that's a pretty big deal.
Oh, it is, and the whole calling of Andrew, or the whole I guess the story of how Andrew migrates to Jesus is sort of an oddity in a way, because John, as we said last time, John the Baptist is extraordinarily popular, and there are people that are literally lining up to be his disciples. He has disciples, people that want to be just like him. They want to worship God the way John does. They want to do everything John does, and Andrew's one of those. And one day, John is walking down the road, and he sees Jesus.
And I think John says, the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world.
Right. He declares that. He looks at Jesus, declares him to be the Lamb of God, and Andrew just says, nice knowing you, John, and just turns and follows Jesus. I mean, you have to wonder if John is standing there going, well, I didn't mean that to happen. But Andrew, when John declares that Jesus is the Lamb of God, well, Andrew's not going to follow John if he can follow Jesus. Right. And so he switches. He hitched his star to another wagon. Yeah. You know, I mean, it was going another direction. And so I love that story of how Andrew dumps John for Jesus.
Well, then you have the story of Nathanael as they start telling him that we found the Messiah, it's Jesus of Nazareth, and Nathanael says, what good could come from Nazareth? What's the deal?
I know. Yeah, think about the most tiny, out of the way, backwoods kind of place. That was Nazareth. I mean, there in the Roman history of the region, there's nothing that says Nazareth ever had more than possibly around 150 people living in it in the time of Jesus.
Wow.
Very, very small city. And so you have Nazareth here, which is tiny, and everyone is living in this Roman city that is here called Sepphoris. And Sepphoris is a very elegant Roman city. It had a Roman road that ran through it, perfectly fitted together stone. It had a Roman colonnade down the sides. It had beautiful homes with beautiful tile work. and everything was great in Sepphoris. There was nothing great in Nazareth. And so Nazareth was just sort of this backwatery kind of place. And so when Nathanael asks, can anything good come out of Nazareth? He's being a little bit judgmental, but he's also basing it on fact.
Yeah, exactly. So then Philip says, well, come and see. And so they go and they find Jesus, and he asks them this question. It could be phrased, what do you want? But if you look into the Greek, the word is really, what are you seeking? What are you looking for? What are you searching for?
Right.
And so then Simon comes along, and Jesus calls him, and Simon chooses to follow, and his name is Cephas. And then Jesus just looks at him and says, I'm going to change your name for you, big boy. And you're now you are now Peter, the rock.
Right.
Or it was Simon, and became Cephas, which is
Peter.
Is Peter. And so so you have this odd sort of moment where upon meeting Jesus, suddenly he's got a different name.
Right. Oh yeah, I mean it is. You look at this, when these people are encountering Jesus, they're turning away from the person they were following, who they were modeling their life after. They're giving up their preconceived ideas and notions and prejudices. They're walking away from that. They are trusting in a way that they've never trusted before. And Peter is being changed even from his name. His identity is being changed, and that's okay.
And they're walking away from their businesses.
Everything.
And just, hey, we found the Christ.
Yeah.
And then they begin to, I guess, ask some of those deeper questions. Well, what is it that I'm searching for?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a bad question.
Oh, no.
For I think every generation has to ask that question. Every person in every generation has to ask that question. What is it I'm searching for? It's part of, I guess, the human condition, where we come here, we start trying to answer that question with our career choices and the friends that we have and the things that we accumulate and the goals that we have. And there's this moment where we all sort of hopefully have a spiritual moment as they did, and pause and go, maybe hear a voice of the Christ asking, well, what is it that you're searching for?
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to me when we had one of our members that used this phrase. He said, there's a lot of people who kind of wake up one day and realize they've been chasing the wrong truck. and I love that phrase. They've been running hard and wide open, and the goal was so obvious and so good, but it's not the right one.
Yeah, yeah. I've always heard people say that it's, so many of us spend our lives climbing the ladder, only to get high enough or only to do it long enough that we finally realize that the ladder is against the wrong wall. Mm-hmm. And we're not going to get to where we want to be or where we need to be by climbing that ladder.
And so, to some extent, the disciples of those original disciples aren't that terribly different from us.
No.
We are all hopefully come to that moment to ask, what really matters in life? And am I following, even as good as John was, am I following the wrong person?
Yeah, yeah.
And so when we find the right one, if we're to follow in the tradition of the disciples of Jesus, we drop our nets and we turn around and we follow him no matter where he goes.
And we follow their other example. We look at someone else and say, hey, come and see.